The office floor gleamed under the polished lights of Skyline Tower, a towering corporate fortress in downtown Chicago. The scent of fresh espresso mixed with the faint tang of expensive leather chairs, masking the faint metallic odor of papers scattered from a toppled trash bin. "Pick that up, girl," Lucian Harris snapped, his tall frame looming over Aaliyah Thompson, a 12-year-old black girl with hands too small to manage the weight of the overflowing wastebasket. Her fingers trembled as she gripped the plastic liner, trying to stay invisible. Lucian's assistant, a sharp-featured young man, chuckled beside him. "She's hopeless, just like her mother. She understands nothing," Lucian muttered in French, the words dripping with disdain. "The cleaner's worthless daughter." He kicked the trash bin, sending scattered invoices and contracts fluttering across the marble floor like wounded birds. Aaliyah's dark eyes flicked up briefly. She said nothing, just crouched lower, her small hands gathering the flying papers. She had learned early not to draw attention, not yet realizing how crucial her attention would soon become. Lucian straightened his custom suit, diamond cufflinks flashing under the fluorescent lights. "These Americans," he hissed to his assistant, "they'll never see it coming. We'll take everything while this garbage cleans up after us." What he didn't know was that this garbage understood every word, every insult, and every secret plan he thought she couldn't comprehend. And within 72 hours, she would use that knowledge to unravel everything he had built. Later, the apartment smelled of disinfectant and lemon polish. Aaliyah knelt beside her mother, Tiana, sorting cleaning supplies into neat rows. "Mama, that man today, he said bad things." Tiana, counting stock sheets for the janitorial company she worked for, didn't look up. "Baby, you know better than to listen to grown folks' business. Just keep your head down." "But he said he's going to steal Mr. Caldwell's money. $500 million. Aaliyah's voice trembled. Tiana froze, pen hovering midair. "Aaliyah, you even speak French?" "Yes, Mama," Aaliyah said quickly, pulling out her worn phone. "I taught myself. YouTube videos, online classes. Mrs. Fatou upstairs taught me Arabic, French, and Somali. I learned from them too." Tiana stared, a mix of awe and fear in her eyes. "You understood every word?" "Yes. He wants to hurt people, Mama. The new housing project, where the Rodriguez family was supposed to move, where kids like my friends could finally have their own rooms. He wants to take it all." Tiana sank onto an overturned bucket, her hands shaking. "Speaking up, it could cost us everything. But you've got fire in you, Aaliyah. Intelligence that can't be ignored." Aaliyah's eyes hardened with determination. "Mama, we have to tell Mr. Caldwell. We have to stop him." The next morning, Tiana and Aaliyah approached the executive floor. The security guard hesitated. "Ma'am, Mr. Caldwell didn't authorize any visitors." "It's okay, Marcus," Tiana said softly. "He needs to hear this." David Caldwell, the CEO of the firm, looked up from his office doorway, curious rather than annoyed. "Mrs. Thompson, is everything all right? It's quite late." Tiana twisted the cleaning cloth in her hands, glancing at her daughter, who clung to her side like a shadow. "Mr. Caldwell, I'm sorry to bother you, but my daughter, she heard something important about your deal tomorrow." David raised an eyebrow. Aaliyah stepped forward, barely reaching the edge of the desk, eyes bright and unwavering. "Mr. Lucian," he spoke in French and Arabic. He called me trash, called my mama a monkey, said Americans are stupid and he'll trick you with fake contracts." David's jaw tightened. "You understand French?" "Yes, and Arabic. I can translate everything." Aaliyah pulled up her phone, showing news clips, YouTube lessons, and refugee support calls she had translated for neighbors. Her voice was calm, precise, and unnervingly competent for a 12-year-old. David leaned back, shocked. This child may have just saved the company. In Lucian Harris's office, the man spoke rapidly into his phone, unaware of the child sitting quietly in the corner, drawing butterflies with pink and purple wings. The Americans know nothing about the hidden clauses, he said, unaware that Aaliyah's small hand had paused mid-crayon stroke, every word recorded in her mind and her phone. When Lucian's assistant mentioned a backup lawyer prepared to defend the fraudulent contract, Aaliyah froze slightly. But then she picked up her blue crayon and continued drawing, silently signaling to David via her tablet. Red for danger, blue for important information, green for truth. David's office was a quiet war zone. Each colored dot flashed across his screen like a coded alarm. "We have 30 days, Aaliyah whispered, pointing to the timeline she deciphered. "Not 60. And $200 million in penalties if anyone tries to stop him." David's hand shook as he dialed his legal team. "We need every resource now." The morning sun poured across the glass towers of Chicago, reflecting off the steel and windows of Skyline Tower like a beacon of power. On the executive floor, Lucian Harris's team was already deep into preparations for the $500 million contract signing. He paced, speaking rapidly in French, then Arabic, unaware that Aaliyah Thompson's small, alert eyes followed every movement. She sat quietly on the edge of her mother's cleaning cart, crayons and tablet at hand, appearing to be nothing more than a child at play. Yet behind that innocent mask, Aaliyah's mind worked furiously. Every phrase Lucian uttered, every subtle inflection, carried hidden meaning. Hidden clauses, penalties, ownership transfers. She had already pieced it together in her own notes. Lucian's assistant leaned in. "The Americans, they don't suspect anything." "They suspect nothing," Lucian corrected sharply. "Our plan is flawless. By tomorrow, everything will be in our hands." Aaliyah's fingers twitched over her tablet. Red dot. "Danger." Meanwhile, in a narrow service stairwell behind the executive floor, Tiana whispered to Aaliyah, "You're sure about this? Are you ready?" Aaliyah nodded. "I've been ready for years. Mama, every time someone underestimated me, I learned something new. Today it counts." Her voice trembled slightly, not from fear, but from anticipation. She had never felt such responsibility before. One misstep, and Lucian's scheme could succeed, displacing hundreds of families and handing away $500 million. Above, Lucian spread new contracts across the conference table, French phrases mixed with legal Arabic terms designed to confuse anyone not fluent in both languages. "These fools," he muttered. "They will never catch the loopholes." Aaliyah's small hand paused mid-crayon stroke. The assistant whispered something to Lucian in Arabic. He laughed, not noticing the subtle tension building in the room. Every word, every motion was being recorded by Aaliyah's sharp mind, and by the tablet she had rigged with a discreet voice capture. David Caldwell, the CEO, had already gathered his senior partners, Margot Steele, Robert Kane, and Elaine Winters. They were skeptical when Tiana first explained the situation. A 12-year-old? Translating complex French and Arabic contracts? Preposterous. But David had learned to trust Aaliyah's intelligence. He watched quietly as she set up her tablet, tapping a color-coded system designed to signal: red, deceit; blue, critical information; green, truthful statements. Each dot would flash on his phone in real time. Aaliyah's small fingers moved with precision, hiding her true purpose behind a facade of play. Margot Steele adjusted her glasses, peering at Aaliyah skeptically. "This is absurd. We have professional translators, Harvard law graduates. You want us to trust a child. David ignored her. Sometimes intelligence isn't about credentials, he said softly, almost to himself. Sometimes it's about understanding what others overlook. In Lucien's office, a new complication arose. The American lawyer, the assistant whispered. He's asking to review the clauses in detail. Lucien's eyes narrowed.
Impossible.
We prepared for every contingency. But the presence of a backup American lawyer threatened to expose the loopholes in the contract. He scribbled a note to his team in Arabic, moving papers across the marble desk with sudden agitation. Meanwhile, Aaliyah's tablet reflected the exact loopholes the lawyer might spot. Ownership transfers at 30 days, liquidated damages of $200 million, and clauses that could give Lucien complete control without proper authorization. She tapped a blue dot on David's screen. Critical. Flashback. 7-year-old Aaliyah pressed her face against the apartment window, watching a Somali family struggle to fill out official housing documents. She had seen the frustration in their eyes, the hopelessness when language became a barrier. That day, she had vowed to learn every language she could to help others. Spanish for the Rodriguez family next door. French for the Francophone refugees on her block. Arabic from Mrs. Fatou upstairs. Somali from her community center. Portuguese, Korean, Mandarin, all self-taught from online resources. By 12, she spoke 8 languages fluently, with 3 more in progress. Her small notebook was filled with vocabulary, grammar notes, and legal terminology. An arsenal no adult could match in subtlety. Now, in the high-rise office, she was poised to use those skills to protect families, a company, and the truth. Lucien returned to the conference room with a briefcase of revised contracts. He spread them across the mahogany table, a thin smile of confidence on his lips. Non-negotiable, he said. Final terms. David nodded calmly. Of course, but our linguistic consultant will review the Arabic and French sections first. Lucien's smile faltered. Consultant? I wasn't informed of that. Aaliyah's small hand tapped a red on David's phone. Danger. Lucien leaned in closer, scrutinizing the 12-year-old. She looked innocent, absorbed in coloring a butterfly. But inside, her mind raced, recording, translating, interpreting every word. Red dot, blue dot, red dot. David's eyes flicked to the screen. Lucien, could you clarify Section 47B? The subsidiary management clauses. Lucien's confidence wavered. It's standard. Nothing unusual. Aaliyah's tablet flashed subtle cues. She had already identified a hidden timeline change. 30 days instead of 60. Liquidated damages would be triggered if the Americans tried to break the contract. Lucien's assistant leaned over. She's just a child. She can't possibly. Aaliyah's small voice cut through the murmur. I heard everything. The room froze. Lucien's eyes scanned the boardroom like a predator seeking prey. Who had understood him? And how? David's hand rested gently on Aaliyah's shoulder. Let's begin, consultant. Aaliyah spoke in flawless Arabic, her voice calm yet precise, translating Lucien's words to David. The real text gives them complete control after 30 days. Americans pay $200 million in penalties if they try to stop it. And they've done this to other companies before. Lucien staggered. His empire, built on deception, was already unraveling before a 12-year-old girl. The mahogany doors of the Skyline Tower conference room closed with a definitive click, echoing like a gavel across the tense space. Lucien Harris, his polished shoes glinting on the marble floor, exuded confidence, but it was beginning to crack at the edges. Beside him, his assistant shifted nervously, aware that something was off. Aaliyah Thompson sat at the far corner of the room, her backpack on the floor, crayons scattered innocently across the carpet. To any casual observer, she appeared lost in her coloring. But her tablet, resting quietly on her lap, betrayed her real activity. Every word Lucien spoke in French or Arabic was being recorded, translated, and flagged for David Caldwell with her color-coded system. David glanced at his senior partners, Margot Steele, Robert Kane, and Elaine Winters, and gave a subtle nod. The moment of truth was upon them. Lucien spread the revised contracts across the table. He spoke slowly, choosing words that sounded reasonable in English but concealed dangerous clauses in French and Arabic. As agreed, the joint venture will proceed under standard terms. Any amendments have been reviewed by our legal team and are fully compliant with international standards. Aaliyah's finger hovered over her tablet. Red dot. The French phrasing subtly altered timelines and ownership terms. Blue dot. Critical clauses that could cost David's company $200 million if they tried to challenge the agreement. David's voice broke the silence. Lucien, could you clarify Section 47B and the subsidiary management structure? Lucien's jaw tightened. Standard procedure. Nothing unusual. Elaine Winters scoffed under her breath. Is he serious? Asking for clarifications from a 12-year-old suggestion. Aaliyah ignored the murmurs. She tapped a small red on David's phone, then leaned over her tablet, speaking fluent Arabic with crystal-clear pronunciation. The actual text transfers complete control to your company after 30 days, not 60. The penalties are $200 million if any attempt is made to stop it. And he laughed about exploiting other American companies in the same way. The room went silent. Even Margot Steele's expression faltered. Lucien froze, a bead of sweat forming at his temple. He leaned over, whispering to his assistant in rapid Arabic. How could she understand? The assistant's face paled. I don't know. Perhaps someone in the company. A spy. Lucien's confidence crumbled. He could sense it. The child, seemingly powerless, was dismantling the empire he had built with decades of cunning. David's voice, calm but firm, broke through. Lucien, our consultant has just outlined the discrepancies in your contracts. I think it's time we discuss the real terms, all of them in detail. Lucien's assistant whispered, panic rising. The contracts. She knows everything. Red dot. Blue dot. Red dot. Aaliyah's tiny fingers moved quickly, conveying critical signals to David. Lucien's eyes narrowed on Aaliyah. This child. How did she gain access to our communications? Aaliyah looked up from her tablet, her gaze unwavering. I listened. I learned. And I translated. You underestimated me, Lucien. David stood beside her. You wanted to protect your community, your company, and the truth. That is enough. Lucien's voice grew cold, sharp as steel. She cannot be part of this. She must leave. David shook his head. No. She stays. If you want this deal, you negotiate in front of her. Transparency is non-negotiable. Lucien's smile vanished. Every clause, every loophole he had carefully embedded, was now exposed to a 12-year-old girl. Aaliyah's tablet buzzed. She had flagged a section in the Arabic text that Lucien had assumed would never be discovered. An accelerated timeline clause giving him full control after 30 days instead of 60. She drew a small house with numbers on her tablet, tapping red and blue dots to indicate danger and critical importance. David's eyes widened. Lucien, the timeline. You proposed 30 days, not 60. Explain. Lucien stumbled, faltering for the first time in decades. His assistant whispered urgently. She knows about Section 73C. Liquidated damages. Red dot. Aaliyah's tablet flashed rapidly, catching every lie and deception in real time. Lucian's entire demeanor shifted from confident predator to cornered animal. Every phrase he spoke, every attempt to confuse the Americans with mixed French-Arabic legalese, was now catalogued, translated, and exposed. David pulled out his phone and tapped Aaliyah's signals. Each red dot corresponded to an actionable legal risk, and the blue dots flagged clauses needing immediate attention. Lucian, these contracts are nullified until we review every section. And every fraudulent action is now documented. Lucian's assistant bolted for the door, but David's security team, quietly stationed outside, blocked the exit. "No one leaves," David said firmly. Aaliyah, still small and seemingly innocent, now commanded the attention of the entire room. "I recorded everything. Your planning, your hidden clauses, your discussion about exploiting other companies. Every word is evidence." Lucian's face turned ashen. The empire he had spent decades building, designed to deceive, manipulate, and steal, crumbled in front of him. The FBI and SEC had been alerted earlier by David's legal team. Agents arrived promptly, moving efficiently through the room. Lucian and his assistant were taken into custody, their plans exposed. Aaliyah stood quietly, holding her tablet. Her small figure contrasted sharply with the imposing presence of executives, yet she held the balance of power. David knelt beside her. "You just saved hundreds of families and prevented a massive financial fraud." Aaliyah shrugged. "I just did what I could. I wanted to help." The senior partners, once dismissive, now approached cautiously. Margaret Steele extended her hand. "Aaliyah, I underestimated you. I apologize. You've shown brilliance beyond anyone's expectation." Even Robert Kane and Elaine Winters nodded, speechless, their prior skepticism replaced with awe. 1 year later, Skyline Tower displayed a new plaque, Aaliyah Thompson, Chief Youth Linguistic Consultant. At 13, she managed translations, analyzed contracts in multiple languages, and mentored refugee children at the community center. Her desk, child-sized, was cluttered with textbooks, notebooks, and tablets displaying live translation software. The office walls showcased awards from universities, the SEC, and international law societies recognizing her unique contribution. But the centerpiece remained a framed photo, Aaliyah teaching Arabic, French, and Spanish to a group of refugee children, all laughing as she guided them through a complex translation exercise. David Caldwell introduced his daughter, Lily, to Aaliyah. "Lily, meet the girl who changed history." Lily's eyes widened. "You speak 8 languages? And you're only 13? Aaliyah smiled. "And I'm still learning." For the first time, the executives who had once scoffed now watched in silent admiration as Aaliyah shared her knowledge, proving that brilliance knows no age, no background, and no preconceptions. The morning sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows of Skyline Tower, illuminating the spacious office now officially Aaliyah Thompson's domain. Though the desk was child-sized, strategically placed next to the larger executive furniture, it was cluttered with a mix of advanced legal software, colorful notebooks, and her ever-present tablet. Today, she sat cross-legged, meticulously reviewing translated contracts for a new merger. The phone buzzed incessantly. Messages, emails, and notifications flooded in, from David Caldwell's team, the SEC, and international partners who had heard of her work. Yet, Aaliyah remained calm, her mind focused on the task at hand. The world outside the office was bustling, but here, she orchestrated complex operations that even seasoned lawyers found daunting. The news outlets had not wasted time. Headlines splashed across screens. Teen prodigy stops $500 million fraud. Cleaning lady's daughter outsmarts international criminal. Aaliyah Thompson, youngest linguistic consultant in legal history, At first, Aaliyah was hesitant about the attention. She had never sought fame. Her mission had always been helping people, protecting families, and ensuring fairness. Yet the world had noticed. David smiled when he handed her the first printed copy of a newspaper. "You did this, Aaliyah. People need to know." Aaliyah glanced at the headline, then looked at the photograph of her standing beside Lucian Harris, her tablet in hand, tiny against the imposing boardroom table. She smiled faintly. "I just did what I had to do." But it wasn't just corporate headlines that mattered to Aaliyah. Her heart had always been with the refugee children in her neighborhood, struggling with language barriers and navigating a new world. At the community center that afternoon, Aaliyah led a class in Arabic and French, using games, songs, and interactive exercises to teach the children the intricacies of language. "Remember, Layla," she said to one of her students, "if you can understand someone else's language, you can understand their world." The room erupted with laughter as Aaliyah turned a complex grammar lesson into a playful competition, awarding small stickers and high fives for correct answers. Parents watched in awe, many of them moved to tears. It wasn't just about language. It was about empowerment, hope, and the realization that their children were capable of greatness. David Caldwell, inspired by Aaliyah's vision, had established the Aaliyah Thompson Foundation, a program that offered scholarships, mentorship, and resources to gifted children from underprivileged communities. The inaugural scholarship ceremony was held in the same Skyline Tower conference room where Lucian Harris had once underestimated her. 15 students were selected, each with their own challenges: homelessness, single-parent households, learning disabilities, and language barriers. Aaliyah stood at the podium, her small hands gripping the microphone. "A year ago," she began, her voice steady, "someone looked at me and saw nothing but cleaning supplies and a child. Today I stand before you not because I am special, but because I worked hard, learned as much as I could, and refused to let the world tell me I wasn't enough. Each of you has gifts that the world needs. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." The audience erupted in applause. Tears streamed down the faces of parents and teachers alike, many of whom had never witnessed a young person speak with such clarity, authority, and compassion. Word of Aaliyah's achievements spread quickly. Universities, foundations, and even international organizations reached out, eager to provide resources, mentorship, and opportunities. She began to receive invitations to speak at conferences, contribute to legal research on translation and international law, and participate in global discussions on education for disadvantaged children. Despite her growing influence, Aaliyah remained grounded. Her evenings were spent at the community center, helping students navigate homework, translating official documents for families, and offering guidance to anyone in need. To her, this was just as important as any corporate triumph. One afternoon, David Caldwell brought his daughter, Lily, to meet Aaliyah at her office. The meeting was informal but meaningful. "Hi, Aaliyah," Lily whispered, her eyes wide with admiration. "Dad says you speak like 100 languages. Can you teach me to?" Aaliyah smiled warmly, kneeling to be at eye level. "Of course, we'll start with soccer terms in Arabic, French, and Spanish." For the next hour, the two girls laughed and played, trading words and phrases, demonstrating that language was not just a tool, but a bridge between worlds. Aaliyah realized that mentoring Lily wasn't just about teaching vocabulary. It was about inspiring curiosity, confidence, and empathy in someone who could one day carry forward her mission. Late at night, Aaliyah sat at her child-sized desk, surrounded by glowing screens, books, and notebooks filled with meticulously written phrases in multiple languages. The city lights twinkled through the glass windows, reminding her of the countless people she had helped and the ones she would continue to assist. David entered quietly, watching her work. "Aaliyah," he said softly, "you've changed more than just a company. You've changed the way adults see talent, potential, and courage. You've given hope to so many children who thought the world had no place for them." Aaliyah didn't look up. "I just want to help people understand each other, Mr. Caldwell. That's all. If I can stop just one family from losing their home, or help one child feel seen, it's worth it." David nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "And yet you've done so much more. You've changed the world, one person at a time." Months later, Aaliyah was invited to the United Nations to speak on the importance of language, education, and empowerment for children worldwide. In a grand auditorium filled with diplomats, educators, and global leaders, she stood at the podium, calm and confident. "Talent doesn't wear expensive suits," she began, echoing the lessons learned in the boardroom a year ago. "Intelligence doesn't require a degree. Wisdom doesn't need age. And worth has nothing to do with money, status, or recognition. Every child, every person has gifts the world needs. We must see them, hear them, and believe in them." The applause was thunderous, a testament to the truth of her words. Even seasoned diplomats, hardened by years of negotiation and bureaucracy, were moved to tears. Back at Skyline Tower, Aaliyah returned to her office, greeted by the smiling faces of the children she mentored. Each one carried notebooks filled with new words, phrases, and languages. The room buzzed with energy, laughter, and possibility. Aaliyah knelt among them, her small hands tracing letters on a whiteboard. "Remember," she said gently, "the world may not always see your potential, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what you know, what you can do, and how you treat others. You are enough. You are worthy. And you are brilliant." The camera pans out, capturing the scene. A small girl surrounded by a new generation of learners, bridging worlds through language, knowledge, and courage. Aaliyah Thompson, once underestimated, now stood as a symbol of hope, intelligence, and the unstoppable power of believing in oneself.